Rivalry renewed, which for a long time wasn't a rivalry, as Key and Jay well know, but now has heated up. Los Angeles Clippers, Lakers, both those games.
Ain't no rivalry. It's just a team with a uniform.
That's
renting
fair
our
enough.
stadium.
Clippers going to be all right, low-key all right. Don't sleep on Luke Kennard. That was a big pickup for them, Key. I'm not saying they're at the Lakers level, but the Clippers are going to be right there.
Hey, Key, you know where Kennard played his college ball?
Stop it, Zubin. Stop.
He's a proud Duke Blue Devil, that's for sure. Big pickup. But to Key's point, one team has 17 banners in the ceiling. The other has never made the Western Conference Finals in their essential 50 years of existence. So you're right, Key. I guess both teams have to win for it to be a rivalry. So right now, I guess technically you're right. The Lakers with their 17 chips and the Clippers with their 0 final appearances.
But that's what Jay said all along, right? His team's got both of them. It's not a rivalry when one's getting smacked upside the head constantly.
Exactly right.
But I'll mention this. Key, remember, Jay, you said last year that even after the Clippers flamed out and lost to the Nuggets and all the backbiting.
We just got on the show this year.
It was like 3.5 months ago, Zubin.
There's only 71 days pretty much in between both seasons.
Come on, Zubin.
But with regards to, and I actually disagree with Jay's point here, but Jay's the NBA authority. You had said, Jay, you still believe that the Lakers need to go through the Clippers. That's something that you've been adamant about from the jump.
Well, I go through the Clippers. I said last year something that we wanted to see was that the Lakers ultimately face the Clippers, considering before the Clippers dropped the egg and Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were beside themselves and not actually who we projected them to be in the playoffs. Look, there still is a battle of Los Angeles going on right now, but I think it's crazy how the table has just skewed drastically in the Lakers' favor. I mean, just their additive pieces that they were able to pick up make them exponentially better. Now, I still think the Clippers are a good team. I think they'll be, right there towards the upper echelon of the Western Conference. And it's going to be one of the best challenges because they will be in LA. We will make it a big thing. But I don't know necessarily this year the Lakers will have to go through the Clippers. The Clippers are going to have to go through the Lakers if they have any chance of making it.
Okay, so let's go back to the bubble. One of the reasons there's always conspiracy theories, and I love a good conspiracy theory. A lot of people said Adam Silver opened up the bubble to 22 teams because he wanted the Pelicans to make the playoffs. Got to get Zion in the playoffs. If you get lucky, you roll the dice. LeBron finishes in the 1 seed. Zion finishes in the 8, and boom, there you go in the bubble, a Lakers-Pelicans first-round series, the present and future of the league. Alas, the Pelicans flamed out. Zion wasn't great. They fired their coach. They've got Stan Van Gundy. New start for Zion. He is going to play the 4 pretty much exclusively, small forward, no minutes restriction, which has been hampering him since he entered the league. Preseason debut last night. They'll take on the Bucks in their last preseason game on Friday. Preseason ends on Saturday. Zion on playing quite a few minutes last night.
I felt great to be out there for extended stretches. I haven't played, I don't think I played that many minutes in 2.5 years, so it was a great feeling to experience that again.
So that's the deal. But, Jay, you're a little bit concerned here about Zion long-term, and you're not looking to the NBA for a fellow comparison. You're looking to another sport.
Yeah, well, we were doing this before. We were going through NFL comps to NBA players, and I was saying Zion reminds me a lot of Cam Newton, both explosive type athletic abilities, both with a huge upper body frame. And the game's kind of somewhat similar, right? People question Cam and his throwing ability. People have always questioned Zion and his ability to shoot the ball. Cam has to make plays off running, using his legs. And for Zion, he's at his best when he attacks the basket. The one concern I have about Zion is his ultimate health. Is his health sustainable? Is going to be a question that follows him throughout the course of his career. He's had some weight issues. We've seen Cam have some issues with his health due to the volume in which he has to attack and run the ball. And for Zion, he attacks the rim with reckless abandon due to his lack of skill set of shooting the ball, right? So instead of shooting a mid-range jump shot, he drives, and that frame, that body weight that he has, he's constantly coming down in dangerous territory because he's attacking the rim with reckless abandon all the time. And that just increases his odds to get hurt again for somebody who's always had a history of being injury prone. Look, he's electrifying. There's no doubt about it. I want to watch every single game. I root for Zion to win and be one of the best players we've ever seen. You just worry about the health concern due to the volume in which he attacks the rim amongst the trees.
And Key, I would just ask you here, what's a reasonable expectation for Zion, considering they got a haul of players in the AD trade, many of them Los Angeles Lakers, plus a healthy, fresh Zion from the start, and a head coach in Stan Van Gundy. Reasonable expectations for Zion and company.
I think that they, going to push to make that same sort of position that they were in this year, that 6, 7, 8 spot. I think Stan Van Gundy's a good coach. It'll be interesting to see if Zion can stay healthy. I've always, in terms of NBA comps, I've always kind of compared him a little bit to Blake Griffin. I thought that's kind of where he taps out at, which I think is still pretty damn good, right?
Look, losing Drew Holiday, I think, really hurts them. You need Brandon Ingram. He was he was an all-star last year. You need him to continue to take his game.
What is the latest your reporting is telling you on the James Harden out of Houston saga?
Zubin, he's going to make his debut tonight. He'll play in that preseason game for the Rockets. Just had one practice with the full team yesterday with Steven Silas, his new coach. But his focus remains on getting a trade out of Houston. And regardless of what John Wall has looked like or Boogie Cousins early in the preseason, it's not going to impact his thinking. He's made that clear to the organization. And he's also told them that Ramona Shelburne and I are told that he's going to work with them here in the interim until they find a trade. He's going to play. He's going to be there. He knows that if he becomes a problem with the team, it makes it harder to trade him because the organization, they become limited perhaps in the kind of assets they can get back. So the one thing about James Harden is he loves to play. He shows up every night. He doesn't want to sit. He doesn't want nights off. He wants to play a lot of minutes. I think you can expect to see that here. But I think, the list of teams for him is relatively short because there's so few teams who really have the assets to be able to pull this kind of a deal off and are in position for a player who's 30 years old, who is or over 30 years old and has the kind of money on his contract. It's not for everybody, but I think Philadelphia remains at the top, I think, of the teams who have the best ability to put a package together, and Brooklyn looms still in this sweepstakes.
Well, let me ask you this about the James Harden situation. Did the Rockets move Westbrook for John Wall so they could try to retain James Harden, or was it simply we need to move on from Westbrook? Well,
Keyshawn, they hoped that maybe having John Wall in would spark some interest with Harden, but they had a player in Russell Westbrook who wanted out. Washington had a player in John Wall who wanted out. Both guys with supermax contracts. It was kind of an easy deal in that sense to do. But listen, they've all along in Houston wanted to find a way to keep James Harden. We had reported around the time of the draft, that he had turned down a 2-year, $100 million plus extension that he was eligible for. And so while they would like to see how this John Wall, James Harden pairing goes, management, ownership would, they know that James Harden wants out. And so whatever deal they make here is going to be, I think, really independent of John Wall. And you're going to see an organization that's going to try to get draft picks, try to get a really, really good young player. And you're going to see Houston ultimately here move toward a rebuild once they're able to do a John Wall trade, or do a James Harden trade.
Whoa, did Tim Fertitta and company actually think that the way they were doing it was going to pan out, them not consulting with James on moves like Daryl Morey leaving, like moves like Mike D'Antoni no longer being there, even bringing John Wall in? Did they think that was a recipe for success?
Well, remember, Jay, Daryl Morey left, Mike D'Antoni left. Both guys, Mike D'Antoni was a free agent, decided he was not going to return to Houston, and Daryl Morey walked away from the job. Philadelphia was there waiting for him. He takes a Sixer job. This organization has consulted with James Harden on everything for years. He's had as much say as any star player in the league has had with how an organization is run, who his teammates were going to be. And, that would have continued, I think, if he wanted to be there. But I think the changes in management coaching were made by those individuals. They decided to move on.
Who are the real suitors, serious contenders for James Harden's services, Woj?
I mean, Keisha, I think it's, it's all relative. I think Brooklyn has interest. Houston hasn't shown that they're really interested in the Nets' pieces. They want that knockout, great young player. They have, Karis LeVert's a good one, a very good one, borderline all-star. If Brooklyn really wanted to get into this, they'd probably have to use their assets to find a young player around the league and put him in a three-way deal that Houston would be interested in. They haven't gotten to that. Philadelphia is the natural trading partner because they have Ben Simmons and they have an All-NBA player who's under 25 years old, and they certainly have a president there in Del Morey who's very, very fond of James Harden, traded for him in Houston, brought him from Oklahoma City. They have talked with the Sixers, but they've not gotten close to a deal with them. And listen, there are teams around the league who've kicked the tires on it, Keyshawn, but nobody who has kind of dove into this head first. And so these trades can be funny. It can play out over time. Or all of a sudden somebody wakes up one day and says, we're ready to get aggressive and put the kind of package it'll take to get it done. I think, but Houston knows they have time on their side in the sense Harden can't be a free agent for at least 2 more seasons. So they can wait here and try to find the kind of deal they know they need for a player of his stature, which is max return for his value.
Woj, I know we'll talk about this Friday night on NBA Countdown, but speaking of Brooklyn, considering Kyrie just called people within the media pawns, he then backtracked his comments not only on that but also on Steve Nash. Why talk to the media? Why do that at that certain juncture? Why kind of backtrack those comments?
I don't know, Jay. I think there was no sense it was going to be a season-long ban. It would have been very expensive to not talk to the media the entire season. I mean, the media now for players this season is fairly easy. You get on a Zoom call for 10, 15 minutes, and it's over. And so I think for Kyrie, listen, he decided to talk yesterday. I imagine he'll talk periodically. Again, you're going to get fined by the league, and it also puts a lot of pressure on your teammates when they have to answer to it, and everybody else in the organization has to answer about you when you're not talking. And I think as a leader, Kyrie knows that, and I think that's part of your responsibility as a franchise player is to be, certainly he and Kevin Durant are going to be the focal points in every